My name is Matthew Orr. I'm the founder, owner of VoIPTools and chief architect for our software development team. I've been doing IT services for this year's 41 years, so I've been doing it a long time. We've been doing 3CX add-on tools for somewhere around 14 years. I've kind of lost track of exactly how long it's been. So yeah, we started with 3CX version 6 was the first version of 3CX that we started working on. We have offices here in the United States in, I think, 5 different states. Adam is here with me. He's the Director of Sales and Marketing. Aman is also in the Sales and Marketing team and actually helped us set up our original support organization. And I should mention, I guess, that we do offer 24/7 support 365 days a year. So if you need help with any of the tools that we're talking about today, you should be able to get help on those tools. So this webinar was touted as a webinar about our new tool, Barge Messages. But we're going to cover a couple more because this is a fairly simple application. And so we've got 3CX Barge Messages, recording beep, agent greeting, auto voicemail, and our 3CX Power Dialer. These are all tools that use very similar technology for very different reasons. We're going to cover the first 4. Power Dialer is probably a much separate conversation. So let's start with Barge Messages. So first off, let's talk about why this tool was needed in the first place. There are a lot of organizations around the world. We are in 90 countries, 90 plus countries now around the world. And so the need for compliance messages is not at all unique to the United States. We're seeing it all around the world, whether it's something simple like playing the message that your call is going to be recorded, or some form of disclaimer or lengthy service agreement or policy statement. These are all examples that people might need to have played during an active telephone call for 2 reasons. One, we have 2 goals. One is to save the voice of the agent that's taking telephone calls all day by allowing the system to say the words for them. And the other is to make sure that all the correct information is presented to the caller. So what Barge Messages does is provide a list of pre-recorded messages that an agent can select and have it play in the active call. So let's go ahead and jump right in and take a look at what it's going to look like. So when you select Barge Messages, it's going to go out to the 3CX server and it's going to validate my credentials. So I'm going to log in with my 3CX extension number and my voicemail pin. It's then going to look at my credentials, my group associations within 3CX to determine whether I'm a manager or a 3CX admin. And based on whether you've got it set up to allow managers to make changes or 3CX admins to make changes, it will display a different set of menu options here at the top. So when I log in as a regular user, the only thing I'll be able to do is play prompts. I won't be able to create those prompts. That's handled by managers and system admins. So if I go into the prompt screen, you'll see that I've created a couple of prompts. And this is the interface for creating new prompts Maybe I can log in as a different user and show you what this screen looks like when you're a non-manager. But the idea here is that I need to create a recorded message. And so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to give it a file name. And I'm going to give it a version number. And then I'm going to give it a description. Then I can either manually upload a pre-recorded message. So if you want to, I don't know if you can see that a dialog popped up, but it was a browse dialog that would allow me to select an existing file. So you could have somebody on Fiverr create a professional recorded message for you, or you could do it yourself. But the point is that you upload a pre-existing recording that has the message that you need. Or alternatively, you can use text to speech and type in, this is a test. Okay, and when I press the save button, it's going to take this text and it's going to use the text to speech engine. It's going to create a WAV file named test, and it's going to save it down here in this list. Hopefully that makes sense. So how do we do this text to speech stuff? Well, let me show you. If I go over to settings and then I go to voice settings, I have the choice of using either Amazon Polly. So if you've ever used an Echo Dot, this will allow you to use the same voice. So it's not like the old days where it was a very robotic sounding voice. Today, with the technology getting better all the time, it's sounding more and more like a natural human being's voice, to the point where it's getting very difficult to tell the difference between a human being and a text-to-speech based engine. So then you choose the language that you want to use and the voice that you want to use. You need to set up an account in Amazon. And when you do that, it will give you an ID and a key. Click the test button and it'll verify that it's good. All right. In addition to that, there's an important thing that you need to understand how this tool works. When you are on the screen here and you want to play the disclaimer, you simply click on this icon and it will look to see who's logged in, and it will find the active telephone call, and it will barge in to that telephone call and play this WAV file and then remove itself from the barge. The challenge here is that you may have, I don't know, 100 agents. And when you have 100 agents all trying to perform a barge, you can run into a bit of a challenge. And that is, you can only have one IVR barge into a single call at a time. So one of the things that we need to do is we need to identify multiple IVRs that can be used to perform that barge. And what we'll do is we'll assign the requested audio to an IVR in real time based on the agent's selection. That IVR will then barge into the telephone call, play the message, and hang out. So you need to be able to select multiple IVRs to perform this task. And that how many IVRs you select for this purpose is going to be dependent to some extent on how many agents you have and how frequently they need to perform that barge in an individual telephone call. So it may take a little estimation. So you might want to go a little bit big initially, selecting enough IVRs. So if you had 100 agents and the average telephone call is 15 minutes, then you know that we're probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 10, 15 IVRs. If you only have 4 agents, you might only need 2 IVRs, because the likelihood that all 4 of them are going to be performing a barge at the same time is fairly small. but I think you get the idea. It's fairly simple math. So this is how you set it up. Of course, if I press the save button, that'll do what it needs to do. We've selected the voice. So this is really the full extent of the application. Is you just come in here and select the prompts menu. And of course, if you're not a manager, the only options you'll have are prompts and about. And then rather than seeing this top section, you'll just see the grid and you won't have the option to delete, of course. So then the only thing you'll be able to do on this screen is press the play button. Okay, so that's kind of our Barge Messages tool. And now we'll kind of cover a couple more applications that do very similar things but have very different purposes. Let's take a look at the next application, and that's going to be recording beep. Again, let's kind of cover why was this tool needed. In the UK in particular, there is a requirement that every call that is being recorded plays a fairly innocuous little beep every 15 seconds, reminding people, hey, mind what you're saying. This call is being recorded. But I actually got a email from a potential customer this morning from Florida who apparently they also have a requirement that there be notifications that calls be recorded. So you can imagine that we need the ability to play these beeps for queue calls or outbound external calls. So we need to keep track of groups of users and which ones need this recording beep feature and what type of calls do we want to do this barge function. So let's jump in real quick and take a look at recording beep. And you'll see some similarities, but some differences as well. Recording beep, again, remember we're going to watch for agents who are taking telephone calls or placing calls. We're going to confirm that they are outbound external calls or inbound queue calls for this group of employees that belong to the sales group in 3CX. And we're going to barge into their telephone calls. We're going to barge in every 15 seconds. And then we're going to play the beep and then drop out of that call. There is a 5-second initial delay. You can set it to whatever you want because sometimes a queue, for example, may have an intro prompt and we don't want to interrupt the intro prompt for the queue with the beep. So you can set this to whatever you want. You can set it for maybe 15 seconds would be a logical choice. That way plays the intro prompt for queues and you don't get beeps right away. But it's a fairly innocuous little beep. It's just a very quiet little beep, beep every 15 seconds like that. And that's what's necessary in order to meet the requirements in the UK and can be useful in other places as well. So even if you have a queue prompt that says something like you've reached the VoIPTools sales queue, your call will be recorded for training and quality purposes. It still may be a regulatory requirement that you have that ongoing beep take place every 15 seconds. So that's what recording beep is. It barges in, plays the audio, then drops out of the call. Then let's move on to the next tool, and that's agent greeting. Again, what's the need? Why was this application created? Well, what we were asked to do was whenever an agent answers a queue call, they're going to typically say something like, "Hi, this is Matthew. You've reached the VoIPTools sales queue. Just to let you know, your call will be recorded for quality and training purposes. How can I help you today?" Well, what I have found is that that's a pretty tedious part of the job. And my voice gets pretty tired just doing these little webinars for an hour or so. So I can't imagine how tired an agent taking calls all day long, how tired their voices get. So having the ability to play an intro prompt when the agent answers the phone that doesn't require any interaction from the agent at all. All they have to do is answer the phone, and as soon as agent greeting sees that the agent has answered a inbound queue call, it'll play the selected intro prompt in the agent's own voice, so that it says, my name is Matthew, rather than you've just reached the sales queue, right? So it's a unique message for each agent for each queue. And it's really just intended to make sure that all the right things are said, that it's in the voice of the agent who's answered the call, and to save that agent's voice. It's just makes their life a little bit easier. All right, so let's take a look at how that one works. Again, log in with your 3CX extension number and voicemail pin. Look at what your rights are within 3CX and whether you're a manager or a user. And here's an example of a screen that the agent will see, and the agent will see those recorded messages that they've created for themselves. So they won't see Joe's and Susan's messages. They'll only see those pre-recorded prompts that were created for them. So you select the queue, you select the audio file that was recorded. If you want to record a new one, you press the record button and it will come up and it will ask you what the name of the recording is going to be. And let's call it VoIPTools support. And then if I press the call my extension, it will call me on the phone. It'll prompt me to save my message. I'll press pound when I'm finished, and then it'll ask me whether I want to save that recording. I'm going to close that because you get the idea. Then it would show up in this list. I can activate or inactivate it for a given queue. Because this is an IVR that's performing the barge, we need to select what IVR is going to be used. Each agent has their own IVR. So yes, if you have 100 agents, that's going to be 100 IVRs. But this one, for scaling purposes, we decided to do it one IVR per agent. This happens automatically. So if I press this play button, it will. Well, let's push it and see what happens. It probably knows that I don't have a sound card in this server, so it didn't actually let me play it. Oh, there it is. Okay, so it's going to let me listen to the recording just to make sure that I'm satisfied with it. And then if I don't need any more, I can press the delete button. So again, this all is automatic. It's intended for inbound calls to a queue. When the agent answers the phone, it's going to play this audio file that I recorded and then drop out of the call. It's going to be in my own voice because I'm the person that answered the call. And then the call just continues as it would normally. So I, as the agent, will hear the pre-recorded audio and the caller will hear the pre-recorded audio. Both parties will hear so that the agent knows when he can start continuing the conversation. auto voicemail is the next one. Again, very similar technologies, but for very different purposes. So what's the need for auto voicemail? If you're an outbound cold call organization, or you're a company that's calling people back, say, for example, you left a message with the VoIPTools support department and they needed to call you back to give you an update on your ticket, um, that's where you might want to leave a message. And it's again, one of those time-consuming, tedious tasks where I'm trying to call people back and I get, I'm sorry, I'm not available right now. Please leave your name, number, and a brief message, and I'll call you back. At that point, I have two choices. I can hang up the call and move on to the next one, or I can leave a voicemail. And since you've already spent the time and energy to make that telephone call, seems to me that you should get at least the credit for calling the customer back. So you might want to say something like, this is Matthew from VoIPTools calling you back on your open ticket. You can get me on the phone by calling 801, blah, 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 blah. So there's a lot of different reasons why you would want to leave a message. But what this tool does is it, again, saves the agent's voice, but there's a unique feature to this one, and that is that when you choose to play a pre-recorded message, it's going to instantly drop you, the agent, from the telephone call so that you're now available to place other telephone calls. So you're going to increase the agent's productivity because now they aren't having to leave that voicemail, because while I'm dropped from the telephone call, 3CX is leaving the selected voicemail on the voicemail box of the person that you called. So you get both the benefit of leaving a voicemail, but also not taking up the agent's time or exercising their voice any more than they need to. And now you're leaving a very carefully crafted, approved message. So you can sit down with a script and write down exactly what you want to say and make sure that all the points are there in the message. And then you can record it. You can listen to the recording and record it over and over again until you're really comfortable with the quality of the recording that you've made. And then from there on, you don't have to worry about it. When it says beep, you press the button, you're disconnected from the call, you move on to your next contact that you need to call, and 3CX is leaving that carefully crafted and perfectly recorded audio for your customer. All right, so let's take a look at that one, auto voicemail. So by now you're getting accustomed to how this works. You log in with your 3CX extension and voicemail pin, and it looks up who you are and what your rights are, and here you go. So I call somebody on the phone. Sorry, I missed you. Please leave your name and number, and I'll and a brief message, and I'll call you back as soon as I can. Beep. As soon as you hear that, you select one of these recordings and press the send button. And that will, as soon as you press the send button, you're immediately disconnected from the call. 3CX is leaving that pre-recorded message for you. And so you can stay productive. If you don't remember exactly what it says, you can select it and press the play button, and it'll pop up on your screen and allow you to listen to that recording. If you want to create a new one, again, you can browse to a specific file and upload that recording, or you can record a new one. So we'll come in here and we'll call this webinar. And I can click this button and it will call my extension, and I'll use my handset or my headset to record the message. I'll be given the opportunity to re-record the message. What this box does, and I get access to this box because I'm a manager, is it allows me to create a generic message that is visible to all of the agents, and the agents can't make changes to that WAV file. Only I, as the manager, can make changes to it. But it's a way to centrally control what those audio messages are that the agents are allowed to use. Okay, so that's how auto voicemail works. It's a pretty straightforward application. So this one differs from some of the other applications that I've showed in that this doesn't perform a barge like Agent Greeting does or Recording Beep does. This one performs a transfer. So it transfers the call to an IVR, and then the IVR plays the appropriate message. That's really the everything I wanted to show you today. A little shorter webinar than we usually have, but these are all very related technologies that have their own little niche for where they've been needed. These tools were created at the request of our customers, so these are real world tools that people needed that we developed and are now making available to anybody who purchases our suite of tools. So we've got about 35 tools now. If you have any questions that come up later, you can email us, you can get us on live chat, or you can call us on the phone. So we'll be happy to hear from you and answer your questions. If you didn't see exactly what you need, feel free to give us a call, reach out to us and let us know. We're doing custom development all day long, every day. We're here, we're available to help. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And with that, I appreciate your time. Thank you.